YouTube. So the magic of the internet is working. Good. Just wait for Chris to get back. Okay, so we're going to get started. Welcome to Bookswell Read and Relate. You down for the cause or what? Writers of Color discuss allyship. And just 1 second. Silly me, I had prepared my remarks and then just left them somewhere else. Okay, you'd think I'd done this once or twice already. So this event is part of an ongoing collaboration between Bookswell and the Los Angeles Public Library Exposition Park Branch, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Regional Library, that connects readers and writers and amplifies marginalized voices. This evening's event is also supported in part by Poets and Writers. I'm one of your co-hosts, Cody Sisko, and you'll hear from my co-host, Eugene Owens, in a moment. Originally, we had planned to celebrate culture across borders and spanning several continents. In the wake of the killings of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and George Floyd, and the Black Lives Matter uprising for justice, we decided to shift our focus to allyship and discuss questions such as, has the United States entered a new era of allyship? Has a new generation committed to an anti-racist future? Or are we seeing performative allyship that will fade away with the next news cycle? The roots of white supremacy and the legacies of slavery and discrimination run deep in America, and we must not be silent. Bookswell and the library hosted an event on the eve of Juneteenth last week to raise money for Black Lives Matter LA that celebrated and lifted up the voices of Black writers, including Bridget Bianca, F. Douglas Brown, Kamari Carter Hawkins, Natasha Deon, and Ashaki M. Jackson. The writers were incandescent. You can visit Bookswell's YouTube channel and subscribe and like our posts and watch the replay. I recommend it. Tonight, we're continuing our fundraising for BLMLA, and we're widening our focus to ask what it means to be an ally. 4 talented writers of color, Chris L. Terry, Lisbeth Coiman, Tanya Ko-Hong, and Sehba Sarwar, will share inspiring quotes from Black writers and their work in the context of allyship, and discuss perspectives and point toward resources that illuminate the complexities of allyship. Speaking of resources, yesterday, the New York Times ran an article by Nicole Hannah-Jones that discussed what is owed to Black Americans. I'll put the link in the chat, and so that's one resource already that we'll be sharing. One note on logistics, if time allows, we'll be taking questions via the Q&A function, which is a little button at the bottom of your screen. And I'll be keeping tabs on the live streams on Facebook and YouTube and make sure that any comments you have in there get pulled into this discussion for those of us on Zoom. We'll now hear from Eugene Owens at the LA Library, who has made providing a platform to marginalized writers a focus of his work. Let's do it. All right, thank you. And I think Eugene is going to usher us into our next writer. We got lots of claps coming through on the chat and the comments, so thank you, Chris. Looks like, here we go. Take it away, Eugene.
Educator living in Los Angeles, and her work has been published in the Centros Review, Entropy, Lady, Liberty, Lit Magazine, Hit Mama Magazine, Rabbit Oaks, Cultural Weekly, and elsewhere online, and most recently in print in the Alphagena Literary Review and Accolades on Women Who Submit anthology. She featured in the 2015 Listen to Your Mother show with her piece, The Violin. She lives in LA, where she works and dances salsa and teaches adult ESL for the LA USD district. Please welcome Lisbeth Coiman.
Thank you, Dean. Happy to be here. I'm going to start with a quote by Sonia Sanchez. Come, ride my birth, earth mother, tell me how I have became this woman with razor blades between her teeth. That's from the poem Woman by Sonia Sanchez, published in the collection Homecoming, 1978. This is a poem I wrote for this occasion. Allyship in 10 easy steps. 1. I identify the hair root cause of self-hatred. Mother washing my hair with chamomile tea to make it blonde, but she only made it me bachaca, yellow, the derogative name she called me all throughout my childhood. I never understood why a woman who despised black people married the son of a black woman, gave him 7 children in all colors of the rainbows. I wasn't the darkest, just the one with chicharrones, the kinky hair she grabbed with one hand and slammed it against the wall, because I was a carefree tomboy who still don't give a damn about straight hair, bachaca, machorra, yellow dye, she used to call me. 2. At the hair salon, the enlightened witnesses show me the beauty of my hair, celebrate the woolly texture of my unruly curls, my negritude. 3. Recognize all forms of hate as corrosive acid destroying our society. Xenophobia, homophobia, ableism, sexism, ageism, religious intolerance. Resist. 4. I refuse to laugh at your jokes about a white man in white coat versus black man in white coat, nor do I accept your negative comments about unsafe black neighborhoods, women, men, children. Instead, I ask you, what do you mean? Not because I don't know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. But I want you to know that I'm not complacent, nor participant, nor do I allow you to use my lighter skin as a platform for your hate or divisiveness. 5. When a Black person tells me a word, song, film, behavior is offensive, I accept it without discussion because that Black person doesn't owe anybody an explanation. 6. Native American, African American, marginalized American, from Patagonia to Canada. Hear the silence hidden in the white spaces between lines in the history books of the Americas. 7. Black culture was not created for white entertainment. Black culture exists for self-expression. 8. In the classroom, teach tolerance. Encourage new immigrants to preserve their culture and language while shedding the bias and prejudices we all carry in our immigration baggage. 9. Do not question younger generations' right to choose between protest and self-preservation. Place themselves between an armed police and a Black man, or pretend invisibility on their way to a supermarket. 10th, celebrate amalgamated ethnicity, honor the ancestors of this continent, demand to get rid of the damn boxes that force us against them. They create otherness. I'm not your mulata, nor your criollita, your colonized view of my complex identity. I am a brown woman, una morenaza, bella, loca, inmigrante. I'm the other, my ears wide open, receiving the call for action. Not being a racist is the minimum. Be an anti-racist. That's that piece. If I have time, I do another one, but that's shorter.
Yes, there's time. Yeah, you have some time, a couple minutes, if you like.
And because I like to celebrate the joy of my negritude. Yesterday was San Juan in Venezuela, a major Afro-Venezuelan festivity. Dreaming of Barlovento, we exhale in ecstasy, and in this communion we become mythical. Drums make my hips sway with the rhythm of the passion and the memories of the hot land of my youth. The parranda that honors the Black saint San Juan enters every house on the main street of Caucagua. They present San Juan's image to each home in the town centers, bottles of dark rum pass from hand to hand, from mouth to mouth, while women take turns worshiping the saint with their dance. Soon the procession moves to the town square. Our eyes meet in Curiel. You fight for your space at the center of the plaza as my lashes behind governs my body. We smell the strong essence of desire. I see myself in your pupils, drunk of the furia, drunk of you. In this quadrilateral space, there are no distinction. There is no knowledge, no culture, no manners. All past is forgotten. All future is futile. You are Pegasus, I, la gran garza azul, flying side by side, the humid air cooling our hot bodies. We glide over tropical forests where some of my ancestors met with chains around their feet while others had whips in their hands. We hover over cocoa and cafe plantations, but we can't see the fruit because they are protected by the prodigal shade of ancient trees. We fly over women grinding corn at a two hands below. We hear them humming the cunning verses of their chant. We cross over the top of Mountain de Samurito and head north to see the pristine coves of the coast. We pass slightly over to observe people basking naked on the turquoise beaches, unaware of our curious view. Nearby, people are dancing to the African beat on the streets of Osma, Todasana, Chuao. They wave at us as if it was an ordinary thing for them to see the exuberant gray, blue heron and Pegasus passing over their magic land. Intoxicating aroma of cocoa beans drying in the sun perfumes the humid air. Sotavento takes us to the east, and we are now over a forest of coconut trees in Machurucutu, receiving the last rays of the sun. We descend and swim in the warm waters of the Caribbean. Later, we lay our exhausted bodies on the beach and fall asleep under a stellar show. I wake up to the rustling of sheets and the aroma of robust coffee. You sit next to me, kiss my forehead, and say, Buenos días, negrita. Gracias.
Hey, thank you, Lisbeth.
I'm sorry.
That was lovely. Okay, it is my pleasure to introduce our next writer. Tanya Ko-Hong is an internationally published poet, translator, and cultural curator who champions bilingual poetry and poets. Born and raised in Suk-Sudong, South Korea, she immigrated to the US at the age of 18. She is the author of 5 books: The War Still Within, Mother to Myself, a collection of poems in Korean, Yellow Flowers on a Rainy Day, and Mother's Diary of a Generation and Generation 1.5. You can find out more, including an interview with her at Poetry LA at tanyakohong.com. Welcome, Tanya.
Hello, everybody. It is so honored to be here. And also, I love to share today. It's amazing that Korean War starts 70 years ago, June 25th. Can you believe it? 70 years ago. And we forgot. We don't remember. I mean, I didn't experience, but like when I was growing up, we always hear about the Korean War, all that kind of stuff. But, so I just wanted to mention that war, which began 1950, is still going on, I believe. And so today I wanted to share the quote from, I'm going to put in the chat later. I was studying and epic studies, and then I read Beloved by Toni Morrison. And there's a lot of quote that I wanted to share with you, but I think I'm going to share a couple with you, and then I'm going to put in chat later. Some things just to stay. I used to think it was my re-memory. Some things you forget, other things you never do. But it's now places. Places are still there. If a house burns down, it's gone. But the place, the picture of it stays, and not just in my re-memory, but out there, in the world. What I remember is a picture flowing around out there, outside my head. I mean, even if I don't think it, even if I die, the picture of what I did, or knew, or so it is still out there, right in place where it happened. Tell me the truth. Didn't you come from the other side? Yes, I was on the other side. You came back because of me. Yes, you remembered me. And there's one part that I am really, really touch with me is several part is about dealing with like motherhood. What's a black slave motherhood? Baby Sock said, my firstborn. All I can remember of her is how she loved the burnt bottom of bread. Can't you bet that? 8 children, and that's all I remember. If you're a mother, think of that. You have 8 children, and only she could think about is the first child, like the burnt bottom of the bread. And this is the most strong part that the generation 1.5, which is like related when I was having a lot of emotion as an immigrant, and then trying to be sort of, I don't know, it's a confusion in a way. Or who am I looking for identity? It's just really hard. But I thought, I really wrote this poem, I think when I was angry. I don't know, maybe after LA riot or it's back there, but it's Yellow Freesia. I realized I don't really share this poem a lot of times, but I'm gonna share this poem with you, but I'm not gonna read the whole part, but like just one part I wanted to share, which I realized I never shared this poem because I thought like this is like too strong. I don't know. The Yellow Freesia. Because I am a Yellow Freesia, do not think I have yellow blood. Because I am small, do not think you can cut and put me in your crystal vase without water and steal my gorgeous scent and drink it up for your body. You plan to put me in the corner of your dinner table and enjoy watching me dying of thirst while you are cutting your raw black lamb steak for dinner with your sharp knife and fork. The steak is still dripping the warm red blood. Sorry, it will not happen because I won't let it happen. I cannot allow myself to be your slave of your dinner table. If that I do not have thorns as you do, but I do have roots that you never can destroy. Did I tell you that I was born in noble family? My family roots have been growing for about 5,000 years. They are too strong, too deep, too spread out for you to destroy. You may laugh at me because I look dead in the vase. I'm just resting because it is not my time. When spring comes, then you'll be amazed to see the bloom of yellow freesia everywhere. Because I'm a yellow freesia, please do not think I have yellow blood too. I have a pure red blood, just like you do, my friends. And naturalization. You ask me, when do you go back home? I have no home, no country. You ask me, are you a refuge? I'm not a refuge, but I have no home, no country. You ask me, are you an alien? I'm not an alien, but I have no home, no country. If you ask me, why do you have no home, no country? I will smile and say, I too am a citizen of this country. This is my new home. You keep forgetting. I'm a new member of this country. My membership is hung on my wall, too big to put around my neck. You quit asking me when I'm going back home. I'm not a stranger among you anymore. And so that is from one of the part from generation 1.5. And maybe what is the generation 1.5? It is like a young age of immigrants came to another country, not just the United States, but come and then trying to adapt in and live in two different culture. So that is between one and oneself or have like some struggle and confusion itself. So I have the poem called Generation 1.5. Lack, identity, citizenship, language, an awkward life, two people living in one body. And that is how it goes in Korean. 1.5세. 없다. 확실한 신원도, 정확한 국적도, 편한 언어도. 언제나 한 몸속에 너무나 틀린 두 사람이 사는 것 같은 불편 속에 산다. And I just wanted to share one last poem. Do I have time for one last poem? It's called Asian Women. Sometimes you don't know what you wanted to share. And especially my poem translation, Naheso, just came out from Lunchbox. So I wanted to share because I used her quote in this poem. What is the Asian woman's? So she said, so I used her quote in the beginning of the poem. Isn't it about time Korean women live like humans, not hedgehog? This is what you do with your life. Take what your father gives you. Care, food, shelter, learn to be wife, cook, sew, maintain your household, obey orders, serve your family, command servants. This is what you do with your life. Take what your husband gives you. Care, food, shelter. Bury jealousy of his concubines. Be sisters. Bear sons. Or you are useless. Raise them to be a fine young man. Never take your eyes off them. Never tempt or love. This is what you do with your life. Take what your sons gives you. Care, food, shelter. Make your sons' wives to be obeyed. Demand your sons' wives to bear sons. This is what you do with your life. Teach your daughters to be like a song, to the ears deaf, to the ears blind, to the ears mute. Teach them to be just like you. But it's a time to be not mute, time to be speak up. And also, I wanted to share this poem because it is Asian women, what they do with their hand. And I found just really good connection within Beloved. And then the sad said, what do you do your hand? Bless your hand. There's a whole passage about that. It's just amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tanya. I remember seeing you perform this year at AWP at the Women Who Submit launch for Accolades. I really enjoyed it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
It is now my pleasure to introduce Sehba Sarwar. Sehba, I had met through a Poets and Writers meeting a long time ago, and then again on a plane, back when people traveled in planes. And we were sitting next to each other by surprise on our way to Portland. I guess it was a couple years ago now. So I'm so happy to welcome Sehba onto the Read and Relate. So Sehba Sarwar creates essays, stories, poems, and art that tackle displacement, migration, and women's issues. Her essays and poems have appeared in publications including New York Times Sunday Magazine, Creative Time Reports, Asia Magazine of Asian Literature, and elsewhere. Her short stories are anthologized by Feminist Press, Akashic Books, HarperCollins India, and the second edition of her novel Black Wings, which is definitely recommended reading, was released in 2019 by Valise Books. Sarwar's papers have been are archived at the University of Houston's library, and she is a member of the Macondo Writers Workshop. Born and raised in Karachi, Pakistan, in a home filled with artists and activists, Sarwar resides in Los Angeles and was awarded a 2019-20 Individual Artist Grant by the Pasadena Arts and Cultural Affairs Division for her memoir in progress. You can find out more about her at sebasarwar.com.
Thank you, Cody. I do remember that plane ride, and surprisingly, that was only last year. It's only been a year. That's how time has just frozen right now. I am going to start by reading actually inspirational words by 3 Black women writers, and I'll paste that on the side on the chat group so you can have that as I read. You have to act as if it were possible to radically transform the world, and you have to do it all the time. Angela Davis. Black and third world people are expected to educate white people as to our humanity. Women are expected to educate men. Lesbians and gay men are expected to educate the heterosexual world. The oppressors maintain their position and evade their responsibility for their own action. There is a constant drain of energy, which must be better used in redefining ourselves and devising realistic scenarios for altering the present and constructing the future. Audre Lorde. And to close out, in order to rise from its ashes, a phoenix must first burn. Octavia Butler. Today I will read a blog entry that I will post later tonight, and the text is inspired by the Juneteenth march that I joined last week thanks to my teenage daughter, Vinal, who has her finger on the pulse of action and makes sure I take her to it. Kendrick McDade's last words. Why did they shoot me? This is where he began to run. Jasmine Abdullah Richards spoke through the speaker at the intersection of Orange Grove Boulevard and Marengo Street in Pasadena, California. 8 years ago, Kendrick McDade was just 19 when he was stopped by the police at this corner. My 15-year-old daughter Minal and I, along with a group of Pakistani friends, were with several hundred participants at the Decolonize the Pasadena Police Department rally. Organized by Black Lives Matter Pasadena, the march had started 10 blocks away from the Orange Grove Marengo crossing in front of Pasadena's police headquarters. The rally's kickoff was marked by the arrest of a homeless black man who had stepped in the midst of protest organizers who were chalking the sidewalks. The man was handcuffed and driven away in a police SUV in front of everybody at the protest. I don't know why the police handcuffed the man, the MC Jasmine Richards told the crowd once we assembled in the courtyard outside headquarters. He wasn't bothering us. The cops, they took him to the hospital, they said, but they didn't provide any information. We do not know his name. Attendees took turns at the mic to share their reasons for joining the anti-police rally that was more subversive than the official NAACP gathering just a block away, after which our rally turned into a street march. The MC Jasmine shared out her lawyer's number. He'll help you pro bono if you get arrested, she said. We do not have permission to march. No one was deterred. About 200 to 300 of us marched up Marengo Street, blocking traffic on one side of the main road. When we crossed the 210, we held up our posters and cars below honked. After the freeway bridge, we walked down a block that was lined by a mix of homes and apartment complexes. A neighborhood with which I am familiar, even though my family and I are relative newcomers to Pasadena. Minal's high school is further down south on Marengo Street. As we walked and chanted, residents stepped out on the street to cheer. Some grabbed their face masks and joined our protest. At the corner of Orange Grove and Marengo, the Black Lives Matter Pasadena organizers halted the crowd. Some of the protesters who were white stepped up as allies and held up their posters to line up along all four corners of the intersection to stop the traffic. The police showed up to arrest Kendrick McDade because a shop owner called 911 to report that his laptop and backpack had been stolen. He lied about being held up at gunpoint. Jasmine informed the crowd the police showed up. The march continued as we turned left on Orange Grove and walked a few more blocks to where the street intersects with Fair Oaks. Once again, organizers stopped the march to form a circle. White allies formed an outer circle to block the intersection. Jasmine picked up the speaker and stepped into the middle. "This is where Kendrick McDade was killed by the police," she announced. He was only 19 years old. After the march, while Minal and I drove home, she found more information on her phone and read out details. Kendrick McDade, 19-year-old kid who had started college, was killed by two Pasadena police officers on March 24, 2012. The officers did not turn on their police signals, which would have started the camera. Despite the fact that the officers' actions were troubling, they remained in their jobs and did not face any penalty for the murder they committed. Kendrick McDade was unarmed and had no criminal record. He was killed before the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement that was sparked off in 2014 by the murder of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. By then, Eric Garner, who is remembered for his last word, "I can't breathe," was also killed. The Los Angeles District Attorney said that the Pasadena officers acted lawfully in self-defense. Now 1 month has passed since George Floyd was murdered in 2020. According to Washington Post, since then, this year, in 2020 alone, according to Washington Post, more than 100 black men, including Richard Brooks in Atlanta, just a few weeks ago, have been killed by police officers. And these are the names that are known. And 8 years ago, Kendrick McDade, whose story deserves to be known, was killed by two white police officers in Pasadena, California. There was no video footage of the murder. Kendrick's last words were to his ambulance driver. "Why did they shoot me?" he asked. Allyship equals listening and learning about the community around us. Allyship equals thinking globally, acting locally. Allyship means finding out names like those of a man who was thrown down and arrested before we arrived at the decolonized valley. Allyship means saying his name and demanding justice. Kendrick McDade, born 5th May 1992, died 24 March 2012. Thank you.
Thank you, Sehba. We've heard some powerful stuff tonight, poems, nonfiction, fiction, and I think it's important that we think about how we move forward. And so I want to start the discussion portion in a moment, focused on resources that you think are helpful in thinking about how to be a better ally. For those of you who are attending via Zoom, you can put your questions into the Q&A. We've seen some come through, and so we'll be raising those a little bit later. And I see a bunch of people are on Facebook Live. If you have questions or comments there, please put them and we'll work them into our discussion. But for our panelists, writers tonight, could you let us know your one resource that would be helpful as people think about how to be a better ally and take action?
Lisbeth, you're mute.
Oh, sorry, Elizabeth.
Chris?
Oh, I was going to say your best resource is your ears and your eyes. It's it's a time to listen. It's a time to look. It's a time to observe and understand a little bit more about the world that you're interacting with. So, I said something in my reading about what memory are you reassessing. It's a time to think of other times when you feel like maybe you either think you were being an ally or you wish you had been a better ally, and reconsider that. Think what could happen differently, and listen and learn.
Another important resource, or it's you yourself and your need to educate yourself. And as an immigrant, I value education because it's the only way we can move forward in life. But long before I was an immigrant, I understood racial disparities in another country where I was born. It wasn't as acute and as pervasive, and it's more colorism than racism. But I felt the need then to understand this journey that a segment of the population in the Americas suffered. How come my fellow citizens here in the United States happy or conform with the education they have received and don't dig deeper into the reality that they should know? It's okay that the system is hiding it from you, but don't you need to know? Don't you need to read between the lines in the history book? So I think that that a good resource is start with yourself and start digging. And if you want to start somewhere, you can start with Racism 101 by Nikki Giovanni and go to The Changing Same by Deborah McDowell. You can go to robbiediangelo.com, a racial justice educator who wrote the book recently, White Fragility, Why Is It So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism? Or you can Google Dr. Gerald Horn and find out about the correlation between COVID-19 and amplification of racial inequities. So there is plenty out there without mentioning the wealth of culture, African American culture in the United States that we just need to dig to understand the meanings. That's it.
Thank you.
I think it's very, very hard as an immigrant, and especially for who came in the late age. Even like, my sister-in-law who married to American, and then she say yesterday I was on the phone. She said it's very hard to speak English, and then I said practice with your husband, and then she said if I speak and he talks 20 more times than she does. What I am trying to say is maybe you may not know, but like as immigrant, the language is so hard. Some people get sick, fear to go out and speak, and then that's why it's very hard to speak up what they need, what they want, what they meant, when they say it. And I think that's why sort of I bring the poem The Asian Women was we've been so silent to not share, but I think it's the time, even though we cannot understand, maybe using body language, we need to go overcome this uncomfortableness. And then we need to break this war and then let you know who I am. And then I'll ask them, like, I wanted to know who you are. I think that's very important. And it is uncomfortable. it is very uncomfortable because you don't want to not know and then like risk it. But I think it's very important we take our risk and then step up and then saying, hey, this is who I am. And then I would like to know you too. And we just really need to go this uncomfortable zone, I think. It's not easy, but I think we need to share. Nothing is gonna be get done if we don't try. So I think it's very important.
So we heard, sorry.
Speak up.
Yeah. So we heard self-examination, educating yourself, taking risks, being out there, being vocal. Sehba, what do you think?
Oops.
I think all of the above. I mean, I don't call myself an immigrant. I am a transnational. I have very deep roots in Pakistan, and I've done a lot of research about slaves that were actually brought to that coastline from East Africa. And I think the most important thing is what I said in allyship for me is think globally, act locally. I want to know what's going on. I want to know, and some of my friends who were with me were saying, we were all Pakistanis in a crowd of very diverse people, mostly from Pasadena. And they said they wanted someone from our background to go and speak at the intersection on Fair Oaks and Orange Grove, and I was like, this is not the time for us to speak. This is the time for us to listen. This is the time for us to gather information, for us to know. I didn't know this story. I need to know the story. I need to know all such stories. I mean, I for a week I've been processing, and I ended up writing it for today. But I'm just, we need to listen. We need to listen. That's the best allyship we can do. We need to listen, and when we learn, amplify it. Find ways to get it out, do something with that information. I don't have that much. I don't know who's going to read what I wrote. Doesn't mean I don't write it. Doesn't mean I don't say it. And I think we all need to be finding those stories with the students we work with the people we meet, and every corner of we can't all go to rallies. We can't all go to protests. It's not safe because of the virus. We can't forget that. So. Whatever we can do, whenever we can do, listen, gather information, share out.
I recall seeing one of these memes that goes by, and someone earlier in the comments said, we need to deconstruct all these memes. That's a useful thing to do after hearing Chris's reading. But it said, what this moment requires is silence. What this moment requires is speaking up. What this moment requires is going out and protesting. What this moment requires is staying home. And so that there are, many, many different ways, but we need to be smarter about when we take what action that it's having the desired effect. I think one of the things I've been very careful about is to not ask Black people to help me figure out how to be an ally. That's not their work. That's not their labor. And so even when we were planning the Juneteenth event, I was very careful about when we were reaching out, like, how do I make this something that is adding to what they're doing and not asking them to do work? So that's kind of where I've been at. But I do want to say, this moment does feel different in that there is a huge outpouring of support in the streets, online. It feels different, and I'm just wondering your thoughts on how do we sustain that, or what is it that we grasp in this moment and push forward with?
I think something I'm trying to remember is to not be satisfied with things that feel like symbolic gestures, because, for example, I'm from Richmond, Virginia, and the city has a bunch of Confederate monuments. It was the capital of the Confederacy in the Civil War. When people started really protesting against the police department, wanting the police to be defunded, abolished, etc., the governor said, hey, how about I take down one of these racist monuments finally? And people were like, that's great, thank you. And boom, it was just diverted from, it kind of moved the conversation away from drastically changing the police, which was the initial demands. So it can be a big gesture like that. It can be, you can. speaking of memes, I saw a joke on the internet where it was like, this is what fashion companies' Instagram feeds look like, and it's like 3 white face emojis going up, then like a black square, and then 5 black faces. So, you know, you can take the gesture, but then say, you know, what's next? Because symbolic stuff doesn't always put the police's guns away, you know?
Yeah, so touching on that, a question came in via the Q&A about not fashion in particular, but about beauty standards in particular for asking Lisbeth. It says, please elaborate on the beauty standards through your eyes as an immigrant Black Latinx woman, if possible. How does that play into this? And you're on mute. Just unmute yourself, please.
Okay. It's very difficult for a Venezuelan to speak of beauty, especially for a Venezuelan who is not a beacon of beauty. It has to deal with some facial marks. We have an extremely punishing and sexist standard of beauty in my country. We are famous for beauty pageants and things like that. And it was very difficult for me to come to terms with my hair. It's something I battled from an early age, and it wasn't only until I left my country that hairdressers all over refused to do what I was asking them to do, is deal with this big mass of hair with a blow dryer. And they started telling me, that's not a hair for blow drying, that's a hair to wear curls. And that happened in Canada a couple of times. I continued projecting the same pattern of behavior as always, is relax the hair, deal with it with a blow dryer. Until I came to the United States, and it was first by Black hairdressers who just made me feel wondrous, like a queen, every time I sat on that chair, and they spoke so highly of my hair. But it took a Black man to convince me to stop relaxing my hair, and it was Chris Rock. I watched the documentary Black Hair, and I said, never again. And since 2009, there are no chemicals on my hair other than shampoo and oil. And later that I became a single woman again after 31 years, and I started dating mostly Black men, I feel so beautiful now. I feel so beautiful. So I don't know what the standard of beauty is. I am fascinated. I never braided my hair because nobody taught me to. I was taught to wear it very short or relax it. Nobody taught me how to care for my hair until Black women started showing me how. And that's what it is.
Lisbeth, a comment just came through on Facebook from Cassandra Lane. She says, your hair is always gorgeous. But it points to me towards this idea that, you know, white supremacy is deep and pervasive, and like, how do you cut it out when it's in so many places? How do we make this change happen across so many areas of our lives? Sehba, I see you shaking your head, which means you've got something to say.
I'm just thinking about, well, we were talking about hair, and I was just thinking about this poem. You know, it's a really angry poem, and it's written by Esteban. I'm forgetting his first name. And it's for the restaurant owner who fired my cousin because he wears dreadlocks. And it's a rage poem. It's a sarcastic rage poem, and I've used it in a lot of my workshops that I teach, and I used it in a writing workshop, and I just couldn't believe it. This one man, older white guy, said, well, it makes sense that the restaurant owner wouldn't want the guy to serve as a waiter. He wears dreadlocks. Dreadlocks are dirty. They don't get it. I mean, this was a serious question, and it was about how do you deal with that? Do you just get rid of the FUs, Like, well, how do you deal with that? And it's about education, I guess. So took a deep breath, looked around the room. There were a couple of black women in the room, and they were just looking out of the window. They're like, we're not even going to talk about this. This is not even worth our time. And I just took a deep breath and said, no, it is. You can wash dreadlocks. It's like, it's just one tiny piece of education.
Yeah.
Big, massive ignorance that prevails. Ignorance that becomes bias. Then that's just one tiny story. I didn't live it either, by the way. It's not my story. It's a poem.
Yeah.
So for the people who live it, it's just.
Yeah, and it points to our words and stories can help change, right? They can help change opinions. They can help educate. They can turn things around. They can, and sometimes you just want to say fuck off, and it's not worth your time. And then sometimes you say, no, actually, I can do some work. I can help make a difference. I saw today several of the people who are watching on Facebook engaged in trying to educate some of their colleagues at LAUSD about what teaching is and how baseline curriculum is white supremacist, and we need to change it. And so we need to decolonize the curriculum. And it what seemed like a very polarized and opposite kind of conversation seemed to evolve. And I think maybe someone's mind did change at the end of that. So there's a lot of work to be done. We have one more question that came through, which I want to address, and then we do have to wrap up. But it says, what are poets doing other than keeping up with the times to take care of mental health right now? Well, everyone take a deep breath.
Anybody?
Well, I'm not a poet, but you could ask some questions about what's going on in my head, but I make sure to get my rest, to get my exercise, to get fed, to spend time with the people I love, and to stay creative, because that is what keeps me down. That's my time. That's a world that I can control, and it's good to be able to visit that, especially now.
Good advice.
I decided on March the 13th not to watch the news if I was going to go into solitary confinement, which I have been mostly during all these months. And I decided not to watch the news. I reasoned that if they were gonna find a cure for COVID-19 or a vaccine, Facebook will let me know, and I have done my best not to watch the news, and I did once, and I cried the whole night. And as a person who suffers from a mental disorder, my mental health it's the top priority. I live by myself, and I don't want to become a burden for my children. So this is top priority, no news. I'm a happy woman living in Shangri-La, and in times of COVID-19 and racial unrest, I'm not ignorant of what is going on, but I don't need more information than what is absolutely necessary. And apart from that, I do exercise and have sex and smoke weed.
It's important to find the things that you enjoy and to hold on to them. Yes, absolutely. And cannabis.
Before, I wanted to talk about what I am doing. I just wanted to raise a question. I'm just going back to Beloved, and then we all know that this Margaret Gardner, she tried to kill her children to not to go to let them have a slavery library life like she had. And is that us? What do we think? Do we think it's right? I think we have to ask a question, and then we try to put the other person's shoes? I think that this is a really, really deep question. So I wanted to just throw that question to you. And also during pandemic, I think I am more creative than ever because I was like gonna go book tour with my new book, but then I couldn't go. And then I was able to ask like read a poem at through Paris lit up, and so I did it, and then I started just doing YouTube. So I am creating like with art, and then also it's very interesting to connecting with all these people all over the world through internet and then YouTube, and then have more communication. And then I think like mentally, I'm just really getting more healthy, to connecting and then finding out new things to do. And then actually I'm creating like what didn't I did before. So I have like a time I never baked the bread before in my life, and then I try something new. So I'm trying something new, and I'm constantly creating new work as different things. So
I admire writers that are being productive and prolific right now so much, because I want some of your magic to rub off on me maybe. But also connecting with people, yes, absolutely. That is helpful. Which is, I mean, one of the reasons we started this is to pull everyone together. We've run out of time. Sehba, if you have a final thought, then okay.
No, just the same. Slowing down,
Yeah.
taking care of oneself, eating, writing, taking care. So, finding joy somehow.
Yes.
Despite the news.
I hope and wish you all do find some joy. Thank you for spending the evening with us. Thank you to Chris, Lisbeth, Tanya, and Sehba for sharing their words with us. Thank you to everyone tuning in. We appreciate it. And we will see you again. Goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eugene. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
The recording has stopped.
Thanks, everyone. I will be in touch soon, and very much appreciate it. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Thanks so
Bye-bye.
much for organizing.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.